I'm Gerty Rude, back again, a Monday mood. Here I am with the International Judicial Commission and Inquiry into Human Trafficking and Child, that word, abuse, right? And here we have the eponymous so-called Johnny Wedgehog, the Wedgemeister, the Wedgehog General, who is in my opinion, and allegedly, one of the fake scammers and commentators and advocates for the survivors, my darlings, all of us out there, of what one might call childhood abuse of every, because he's here. He is the new Lord, you see. He's the second coming. He might even be the first. No one's actually pinned him down. But he does do what a lot of these internet grifters, scammers and con artists do, is he'll take a bit of something, graft it onto a bit of something else, and build up some sort of hooky backstory that you can easily take to pieces. Literally. Anyway, the eponymous dear Johnny, got himself, courtesy of the government, who didn't want any, people that knew anything about child abuse. I mean, heaven forbid, we don't want revelations. No, do we, darlings? No, we want to control the narrative, you see. And this is where dear Johnny had his moment in the spotlight, in the sunlight of the elite child abuse scandal of 2012. Or in his own words, to this here deposition thing, whatever it is, load of old ooey. I've read his deposition. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm still alive. Honestly, it would have been quicker to get a jab. So anyway, I read it, and right buried, quite near the end of it actually, surprisingly, is a little thing from his own words where he said he was attached, darlings, to a group who was involved with the Met Police of controlling the narrative around about the elite child abuse scandal. And to that end, if you go back on his history, you'll see 2012, him stood outside Westminster. We've been here before, all you people that have been following me for bleeding years. We've been here before, haven't we? Anyway, all you newcomers. To that end, in 2012, we were treated to him standing outside the House of Parliament with Belinda Bemused, who's involved in all sorts of hooky bleeding deals. She's some sort of operative, an agitator and provocateur, and she gets herself... Anyway, but Belinda Bemused, just look at her, she's a nut job. And usually she's always they're funding. Oh yes, I'll get you a fund, because before the internet, she's that old. She's like in her 70s now. So back in the day, CND, Greenman Common, anything that was going, there's Belinda with her begging bowl out. And the money never sort of got anywhere. But the good news was Belinda was actually rumoured to have had an inheritance, and to that end had a marvellous townhouse in a wealthy area in London. So we don't know, it's one of those things where it all vanishes and the protagonist ends up very rich, quite nicely well off, but it's nothing to be seen here. So there was the eponymous Johnny and the eponymous Belinda Bemused outside the House of Parliament with, I might add, Bill full of baloney. Now, if anybody wants to look at Bill Maloney, apparently he's got senile dementia. Well, I think he had it about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So he's a failed actor. Now, where are we getting a theme with these failed actors that migrate onto YouTube and start little scams? So, the eponymous Johnny and Belinda Bemused and Bill full of baloney are on YouTube, and there's footage of them outside the House of Parliament. Now, when I read the deposition, it was like 2017... So that explained what they were doing, because they were controlling the narrative and managing the public outcry about the elite child abuse, you see, that was coming out of Westminster, which was all very tacky. So, and to that end, there was 3 of them who all actually, when you look into it, were agent provocateurs, and there was nothing needed to be controlled. Literally nobody was doing anything, nobody cared. So there was that. And I could keep you all day telling you about the subtle nuances and the sleights of hand that they do to sort of say, well, there's nothing going on here, I really wouldn't worry about it. So, at any rate, did you notice that Lady Diana's had a haircut, or Princess Kate has bought new shoes? It's that BS in it. So, anyway, the eponymous Johnny. Now, he's here. We're going to listen to this old bleeding crud. He was on Oh, it must have been 2015. They put him on UK Gollum, as it's colloquially known, but it's called UK Column. It's supposed to be some radical news outlet that goes on YouTube about midday, 3 times a week, every other day of the week. Actually, it's just hooey. Again, that's a sort of controlling the narrative vibe. I mean, you think you're being so... What is it that you think you're being so liberal and classless and free, but they're not. They're all just treating you to the peasantry, my darlings. Yes, you don't need to know anything. You're a mushroom. So it's one of those, right? So to this end, we got the eponymous Johnny. Now he's coming back out now because I haven't given him any attention for about 2 years. Now I think that's going to change. Now I must say, I don't know, as far as I can tell, he's not actually got a Go Grift Foundation, because he did start a foundation, a John Wedger Foundation, which you could buy pictures of the eponymous John Wedger. And it was literally like something you'd just print out on your printer at home, put in a Poundland frame. I mean, literally a Poundland frame. It was like 30 quid or something, 40 quid, just to have a picture. And it wasn't even a picture, it was like a silhouette, like a what would you call it, charcoal. A charcoal image of him printed out in a Poundland frame. But it's all good, because it's Johnny, and he was getting people in the lockdown when people were lost and lonely and wanted to sort of relate to somebody or something. So here he was, and he got a job being a janitor, night janitor, because you usually do that when you're high up in the police force. You usually do end up being a janitor, don't you, Johnny? Or like, maybe not. So, but it's what they call a live action role play he was involved in. So he was a LARP, and I think he was employed to be a LARP, and he enjoyed his moment in the sunshine so terribly. He's never quite got over it. And since then, he pops up all over YouTube, talking about child abuse and all this thing. What is that happening? Because he ain't the brightest bleeding spark. Well, he's definitely not the brightest spark. He can run a bath, let alone a bleeding charity. So he can't keep 2 salient thoughts in his head at the same time. But the latest thing, in the last couple of years, he's gone into all this wild swimming. Have you heard of it, darlings? Have you heard of wild swimming? Apparently it's when you plunge around in bodies of water, hitherto and unforeseen, historically, as to be anything that one would want to plunge around in. But he's made it popular because apparently it's very invigorating. And it helps you with your mental health. Well, it helps you if you're mental because you drown. And then obviously you're not mental no more, are you? And we have had an uprise because he did have something like 40,000 subscribers, and people used to swear by him. John Wedger, he's like literally a bleeding prophet. He's talking about, well, I mean, I'm a founding member of the Survivors Network, and we can't stand him because we know he's fake, okay? He's taken up or trying to get all the funds that other people who are rich really doing stuff for the survivors of the highest traumatic event and traumas of child abuse, yeah, and there's no funding for them because you've got these fakes out. You've got that Jeanette Archer, you've got that Kate Shamami, you've got a number of them that are all bleeding wrong, and so I can't even think of all their names. You've got that other one. Now, his friend, Wilfred Wong, he was attached to something in the government at one point. Wilfred, his name was, Mr. Wong. We call him Mr. Wong, shall we? So Mr. Wong, he was a child advocate like him, and they both used to hang around in the bushes at Hammersmith or somewhere like that. They did, looking for the satanic people, but all they ever found was condoms. He used to get quite upset about it. Look, there's all condoms in the bushes! Honest to God, you couldn't make it up. Anyway, the eponymous Mr. Wong, who's a child abuse advocate, he's now doing about 27 years in prison for abducting a child at knife point. So there you go, that's his mate. And in the court, it came out that he had a text on his phone that said, has W turned up yet? Because he was supposed to turn up, but he didn't turn up. But guess who did turn up for this child abduction? The police. He didn't, but the police did. So he's obviously one of them. I mean, he's just one of them. He's just, yeah, go do this here. Here's a stick, go and hit him. Do you know what I mean? He's a provocateur. So, yeah, so his mate's in prison for 27 years for abducting a child at knife point. But he's a child abuse advocate, really. And then he used to say, oh, he's a man of impeccable character, when he was already in prison for the 27 years. He weren't having it. No. No, Wilfred Wong, he's a man of impeccable character. Apart from the abducting a child at knife point bit type of thing. And also hanging around in the bushes, you know, all night, sometimes sitting in the bushes in graveyards. Randomly. Looking for ghosties and ghoulies and things that go bump in the night. I mean, they're just clowns. But they're quite dangerous clowns because they hijack the narrative and detour it and divert it off into a scam and this and that. I mean, another thing he did, he was, oh God, what year was this? It's before the lockdown. Was it 2018? We were treated to it. I mean, how I did, because I used to watch him on the telly in them days, and how I didn't throw that telly out of my window, I do not know. So anyway, off he went, because it's the John Wedgie Foundation. It's the Wedgie Foundation. What he's going to do, he's going to earn money. He's going to do a sponsored swim round the Scilly Isles. You know the Scilly Isles? Because he likes swimming. Well, I mean, you never hear this. Apparently he was a swimmer. I mean, he makes out like, you know, oh, I'm an astronaut. No, all it is you can swim, mate. But anyway, he can swim like 99% of the public. But apparently with John, it's like a skill set. It's probably his only skill set. So anyway, so he filmed himself on the beach and the Scilly Islands in his trunks. Right? And he's like, oh yeah, I've just swum round the island. Yeah, I've just swum round the island. You donate your money to me. Yeah, John Wedger Foundation. So it's his foundation, and it's his sponsor swim. Yeah, rubbing himself in the towel. I mean, he probably just got in and got wet and got back out. There's no proof that he swam round the island or anything, or that anybody had sponsored him in doing so. And then he had the thing up, you know. Oh yes, oh, you know, you can like put the money in my John Wedger Foundation, which you can spend 98% of money in a foundation. That's why all the nefarious people like the Marklets, Gates, all the rest of them, they all have these foundations. So basically, you can donate money, really launder it through there and keep most of it for yourself and put it down to overheads. It's that type of thing. And then give a couple of crumbs off the table to the supposed charity that you are espousing, darlings. So, yeah, that was one of his cons. And he's been up to a number of things. I've chased me and other child abuse activists. I've chased him across social media for... It's got to be a decade this year. It's got to be a decade. Because I remember when I first heard him on UK Gollum, and I can remember I had my back turned, and it was on, and I could hear this fucking idiot talking. And I remember just snapping around, and I knew straight away he was a liar. I knew you could just... Or is it just me? I knew he was a liar. And the stories he told is just BS, if you go into it. They always have him as fillers. Ron Swanson has him in as a filler. They must know he's a plum. Sean Atwood has him in. I don't know. I don't think he gets paid. I mean, if they pay him, they're definitely nuts. At this point, he's doing it just to get, because he likes getting his face out there. So let's see what he's got to say.
Turn game another, and it just spiraled very, very quickly.
Right.
We have dozens of young kids aging from 9 to 14 years old.
Right.
All of them were subject to care orders,
Looked
looked after, or
Woo. Yes.
placements, homes,
Yes.
whatever, but all known to the social services.
Right.
A lot of them were known to the police.
Oh.
For being missing persons.
Like every time. Shut up, you bleeding quizzling weasel. Every time he co-opts a story, and he's co-opted a lot, it's like busting M's, you know, when they tell a lie, and then you can research it and go over it, and you can literally take off the graft with a sort of, what would you call it? An unseen scalpel, like an onion. I think it's better, an onion skin. So you peel off that skin, and you find the next skin, and you find the next load of old BS, and you peel that off. And you always get to the bottom, and it is actually what you thought it was at the beginning. BS. So he's grafted himself onto, he's been everywhere. He's one of these, he's like Sven Hassel. He's fought in every war, in every battle, all at the same time. And if they happen to be on the same day at different ends of Europe in the Second World War, well, don't be nasty and don't question him, because he did it. See, this is what he does. So he just grafts himself on. Oh yeah, I was there doing it. He wasn't. Do you know what I mean? What was the one they did when they went up to Windsor Castle, and the Queen was in there dying of bone cancer, and they're all standing outside? That was Jeanette Archer, and they crowdfunded. They crowdfunded for a a what would you call it? A banner? A banner. And I think they got like 1,800 quid, and they got this banner. But it was spelt wrong. And it was like, what was it spelt? Stop child abuse. Or something like that. Anyway, it wasn't spelt right. And half of them turned up were pissed. They had their tins with them, pissed up outside the castle, like, Trev, you got a fag? One of them. It was funny. You got to go and look and watch. Janet Archer put it in. Put Janet Archer Windsor Castle, and you see them all out there with this banner that doesn't smell. I mean, it's just hysterical. And then every so often, they have a meeting, I'm having a meeting. I mean, they had a 3G meeting. Oh, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. They had a lockdown, anti-lockdown protest speaker's corner during the lockdown. So he turned up, child abuse, child this, that, and the other. And Belinda Bemused turned up, going on about 5G and with rattling her tin. So if you send me your email, I'll set up a GoFundMe. So yeah, it is literally a GoFundMe, darling, isn't it? And because I was watching it on several devices, looking at it from several different angles, because I was going to do a review. And it was really funny because the people there were they were just happy to be out. It was lockdown. And none of them had that bird's eye view that I had. And they were all like chatting and milling and just, as I say, happy to be out. And it was a nice sunny day. But I was watching Belinda and him pretending they didn't know each other when they've worked together excremental amount of times. Do you know what I mean? It's so these pair of devious little movers. I think he was actually, as I say, in the deep position. This isn't even a real thing. By the way, an International Justice Judicial Commission inquiry into human trafficking trial is a Mickey Mouse one they put up. It has no official, they don't it's just bullshit. Anything they found out had no rhyme or reason or rationale, or any government had any impetus to move on or to take something away from their so-called inquiry. When you have an inquiry, you usually have several points. At the end of it, you're like, right, in conclusion, we found out this, and this. Well, in this particular inquiry, which was crowdfunded, it was just like, it wasn't government. But he makes it sound like it was. And then government ministers, because they didn't want the inquiry, because they didn't want everybody to know they're a bunch of nonsense. I mean, did they really? So they just kicked the can down the road there, because they were going to have an inquiry. I'm having this. I think it's Cameron. I'm definitely having an inquiry. Children, and actually, literally nothing happened. And what they did is they then hung their hat onto this inquiry. Well, we did have the inquiry. Well, no, that wasn't the inquiry. That wasn't the government inquiry that you lot said you were going to have. You kicked the can around the road, did this smoke and mirrors, put him in there, and then expect everybody and all the survivors and all the people that you think are bleeding thick, okay, not to notice that you didn't have the inquiry. And this isn't a government inquiry, and it's got no powers at all. And also, what is he doing on there? Because unless he's been abused as a child, it's about child abuse. He's in a minute going to start talking about
addicted to crack cocaine and heroin,
yeah,
and were all being pimped out,
yeah,
as the term goes, by one person, which was a female prostitute who was very well known to the Met Police. And this woman had alleged connections with ranked officers, and also a local magistrate, and someone that was high up here, executive status in the BBC.
Right, so where we go, because, I mean, the government's always at war with the BBC, and probably was then back with Cameron. So what happened was that didn't happen, and if it did happen, it was nothing to do with him. And he had no right to graft it and co-opt it and pretend he was involved with it, because he wasn't. Okay, the case he's talking about, and he will go on to call them child prostitutes, he continually, and he used to go to all the anti-child, because there was a sort of, I mean, after that, I mean, it took slower than what the Met Police had this controlled opposition group. So, stop child abuse, you know what I mean? Outside Westminster. And then it did sort of kick off probably after the Jimmy Savile. So he died in 11, it came out in 12. I always knew it would come out about him. And then it hit the papers and it became a thing. There was sort of like a child abuse, what would you call it, hysteria, really. So that is when it did sort of kick off. And he would always turn up because by then he was known to be, across social media, as a child abuse activist, an ex-copper. And before we even go anywhere else, I mean, he says he's an ex-copper. You'll find that there's not actually any evidence of him being a copper apart from him saying he was a copper and a photograph of him in a copper's uniform, which basically we could all do that. And also the cop whistleblowers union wouldn't let him join. Maggie Oliver and that. So just park that up and leave that there. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, make what you want of it. So there was that to it. But he would always turn up and he would always give a speech. And I would count how many times he used the word prostitute. Because he's not a very bright man, but his raison d'etre, his modus operandi, I think his mission statement was to get up there, this is what he was probably employed to do as a live-action role-play activist, is to co-opt the narrative and to make it into the public zeitgeist, to get people to realise you're eating your tea, you've had a hard day at work, right? This child abuse scandal, there are unfortunately children that do make prostitution as a career choice. As one of the policemen actually said in the northern child abuse scandal, like the Rochdale child abuse scandal, it is in fact a lifestyle choice, was what one copper said. So, I mean, that was a sort of thing that was resonating against people that were indolent and didn't really want to have to tackle it, or if they could, they were boxed in because above them, someone who's above them, someone, and they're above them, and they're all at the same club. And yeah, you could just might as well just push a bit of paper around, go home, pay your mortgage, because you're not going to change the world. There's too many people who don't want it changed. So this is where he came in. And that's, yeah, he just would turn up at every, I mean, nobody wanted him there half the time. He'd just turn up, like turning up for the lockdown protest. I mean, you know, I just can't talk about child abuse and everything, because it's a motive to say child. But really, it's I've seen him with survivors. He don't give a fuck. He doesn't give a shit. He don't want to listen to him. He's not interested. There was another one. What was his name? Mike Tarantino. Something. Mike Tarraga. Now he blagged him up. Now he was called. Was he called Meat Rack Boy? He wrote a book called Meat Rack Boy, and he was in with that annoying BBC journalist that done over Sharon Gale, another content creator. I haven't seen her for a while. I don't think she does it anymore. But back in the lockdown days, she was on there. So, Anna Breeze. She was a BBC journalist, and she was in with him, and they were going around together doing all this narrative. I'm a BBC journalist. Just scammers. And then they got hold of, what's her name? Nikki Cooper. Anyone, keep up, troops, keep up. So there's another content creator on it called Nikki Cooper, Nikki Cooper. I don't know whether she's still around. I've been out of the game for a couple of years. I'll go and have a look later. But she used to be like a lady of the street, let's just politely say. So in her day, she was a lady of the street in London. So he zoomed in on her, and then he did a thing that, go and meet me mate, Nikki Cooper, me and I remember all the times I used to arrest you, Nikki. And you just knew by the amazed look on her face that it was bullshit, but she went along with it. It's like that TikTok challenge. Have you seen the TikTok challenge? Where they make out this app and say, right, listen, go along with what I'm going to say. I'm going to make a TikTok thing. But they don't realise it's already live. And then they sit there and go, oh yeah, I've done this, that and the other. And you can see their spouse sort of look as shocked. No, you haven't done that. And it's seeing which spouses will go along with it and which will go, oi, don't lie. Do you get me? It's that game. So this is what he did in this video. And again, it is John Wedger Walks About London with Nikki Cooper on YouTube. You look at it. And you can see her face. I was just cracking up laughing. It's just... I mean, he doesn't realise he is unintentionally hysterical. But he's hysterical in a way that if you met him, I'd have to keep my hands in my pocket. Let's just say that. Because he is the most singularly irritating and annoying, sub-under par, bleeding cretin that just waffles and waffles and waffles about... Basically, he just wants your money. Just give him your money, that's what he wants. Cut through the crap.
This woman seemed to work with impunity for many, many years.
Oh, here we go.
When looking into it, this actually...
Right, well, right. Now, this is a case where the woman was called Foxy, not the YouTuber. This woman that he's referring to was a historic case that was literally because I've personally been into it. I haven't listened to other people that equally detest him. I personally researched him myself. I've been into it myself. The woman was running. She was a ne'er-do-well hoe herself, but her hoeing days were over, and she was on the old snap, crackle and pop. And to that end, she was getting a young girl to do naughties, and people were coming up to this like jobbing hotel. The sort of like place, it's more like lodgings where you'd stay overnight if you were working there as a tradesman. Say you're working up in London as a builder or something like that. It was one of them rather than a hotel. It wasn't actually like per se a hotel. It was more like a lodging place. So she was running a room out of this lodging place and basically hooking this girl up with all these like men that probably had kids at home of her age. So there was that to it, and it was literally nothing to do with John, but he's co-opted it, grafted it on as his story. A bit like the other one that I'm not going to talk about, the Psycho. Yeah, well, that's what they do, you see? I've spent years around these types of people. I can spot them a mile off, I can smell them. So, yeah, that is the thing with him. But he will carry on, and he's actually now lying, because he's taken an oath he's going to tell the truth, but do you know what I mean? Fuck that. So he's just co-opted all these stories that everybody that knows him, listens to him, and just think, well, that didn't happen, and it didn't happen like that. It did happen, but you weren't involved. You know, he's just one of them. There was some bloke he'd spent, 20 years, his parents had spent 30 years looking for the body of their child, and both the parents had died. The one child that was left was obviously now an adult, and he'd made good. He'd become an entrepreneur, and he had a lot of money. And the only area that the police couldn't get permission to dig up to find this body when the parents were alive, the entrepreneur went and bought the property, that the land that the property was on, and demolished it to dig it up to see if he could find his brother's body and settle his remains with his mum and dad. It was like a mission. He wanted to complete it. It was nothing to do with John. Absolutely all to do with John. But no, John made it all about him. He was there. He did it all. He was like... And I already knew the story, because the story was out here, and I'm pointing to the left of me, right? It was left field, it was in the public zeitgeist, it had been reported on, it was in the news, it was come up on your iPad, on the Google, you know, the news thing. So I knew all about this man. I was batting for him all the way, thinking, I hope you do find the, you know, the remains of your siblings so you can lay it to rest with your mum and dad. And complete, because they never, obviously their life was ruined. And their life was never complete, and they both went to their graves still not knowing where the remains of the boy was. And the entrepreneur actually, I don't think the entrepreneur, after buying the field and the building and everything, demolishing it, I still don't think he did find the body. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he might have found it since then, but at the time I was going into it was 2021, 22, he hadn't found the body, because I was ragging him about it. Because he was up there, he filmed himself pissed up, and he was pissed up, plunging around in the muddy field. Oh yeah, I'm here now. Yeah, I was looking for the prostitutes. You know, and if you go back on my back catalogues, I've done loads about him taking the piss out of him. He's such a melt.
It's been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, it has been.
What I did was I exposed my findings. I gave them to paper in.
His eyes are everywhere.
Just a basic intelligence report. And I took it to a senior officer.
Hang on a minute, how can a gormless twonk like him write an intelligence report? Do you get me? Sort of the two words shouldn't be in the same sentence. Come on!
And
hurry up!
I must say that this isn't the first time that I'd been shut down for exposing
myself in
child
public
abuse offences. A couple of years.
When he used to take... Oh, shut up, you melt. Oh yeah, and then he got, oh no he didn't, I can't even believe this in the lockdown, he's such a mug. I could not believe it, right? He got himself baptised in the sea at Bexhill by some hippie geezer that I think was the second or third, he might have been the fourth coming of the Lord. So, I mean, it was just, they got some religious cult vibe going that they all sing, skip around and talk about Jesus. Jesus, baby Jesus, that one. So there he was in the lockdown. Oh, glory be to God, I've been baptised, whatever the word is. Anyway, I'm just off to get really raging pissed. So that's him. Basically, he talks a load of old twaddle. But the worst thing is, as I say, he's hooked on in the last 4 or 5 years, 4 years probably, to this wild swimming. And if you look into it, and I've done a few videos, I haven't done anything about him for, well, since say March 24, which we won't go into. But before that, I was always on his case. Every now and again, I'd pick up on what he was doing and think, right, what are you doing? But then when you think, if you go into it, the amount of drownings there have been subsequent to him. Because I was trying to say to you, he had quite a following. And he had the same following like Tricky, like Charlie Manson. All the lonely old girls that loved him used to send him their money. And he used to treat them like dirt as well. I was always pissed and ranting. It was funny. It was funny. I must admit, it was funny. But because he's saying... And it's always women that they find in these waters. Like, that nobody's ever drowned in since 1880 something. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, there's like all these women across the country that are being found dead. Because we all know you can't just jump into a body of water. There's often a lot more going on than what you see on top. So it's not a good idea to do that, is it? And it's one thing jumping into the sea. I mean, people do that on New Year's Eve and whatever, Boxing Day, and don't they, fun things, what you do to raise money. That's one thing. They run in, plunge in the cold water and then plunge out. They're not running into a body of cold water. As I say, you don't know what's underneath you. Some of them are refilled in open land mines and everything, where you've got all sorts of shite underneath you. And also you can have the currents that are underneath you. You can have the whirlpools that you haven't even seen, weirs, that just drag you in like you're in the washing machine. So, but no. And they're always, the funny thing is, if you do look into it, they're always women 50 upwards. And I have often thought, is it fans of his? Because there are one, she'd had a Christmas drink with a perfectly sane and sober woman, but she'd had a Christmas drink at her works too. She worked in some fancy place. They followed her because she went missing, body was found in a river, and they got her on CCTV, on CCTV camera, right? Going up the high street in whatever town it was. I think it might have been Norwich or Bristol. I'm pretty sure it's Norwich, somewhere like that, right? And they could actually trace her leaving her work, looking quite sane and sober. Yes, she'd had a couple of drinks, but she was sane and sober. She walks into the park. They find her jacket, they find her shoes, they find her clothes. So that tells you that she's not gone in there because she's unhappy and she's depressed and she wants to end it. If you take your shoes off and your coat off and you sort of fold them up on the riverbank, it shows that you've got an inclination to come out and want to put them back on, rather than somebody that is, say, wanting in a desperate situation. They just jump, don't they? They don't care. So yeah, and she went into the river, and I've often thought, I wonder whether she was one of his plunging into the cold. It's very rejuvenating. Look at me, I'm doing it all the time. And then you get to see him in his underbleeding wear. Things I do for you people.
That, if I may jump the timeline.
Oh, here we go.
I was on an inquiry looking into transient paedophiles that had failed to register.
Right.
And I found out that they were residing on canal boats.
I'm so bored of this story. Oh my God. He has literally got a script and it never changes. He joined the police. He was Mosey and Jim was a cartoon on telly, and the children, there's canal boats. Do you know what? There was canal boats. And do you know where they were? You're not even going to believe this. They were on canals. Yes, they were. Unbelievable. But anyway, he was getting himself around the canals, skulking around the canals, and he noticed that there was Rosie and Jim, something or other, children, paedophiles, and they're all concentrated on the canals. Nowhere else. So they weren't in the northern towns, for instance. And they certainly weren't in government. Do you get me? Because this is the time he was playing to. They were on the canals. Just the canals. So they weren't on the street. No, they weren't on the street. Definitely not in Westminster. No. They weren't in the BBC studios. No. Where were they? They were on the canals. So we need to establish their PDFs go on the canal. You see? That's why he's got this theory. That's why Rosie and Jim was a cartoon. Little rag dolls that lived on the canal. I mean, do you know what I mean? Somebody shoot me. But there is that to it. So this is what he's full of BS. Absolutely. But what he was doing, he went through this religious thing. Then he made up with some gangster bloke. It was a Sargoose gangster back in the day with Ronnie Cray. A bunch of murderers and everything. But anyway, hey, let's all sort of applaud them because they were like romantic. They're like, what's it, Dick Turpin? Which they weren't, criminals. So, violent ones. Anyway, one of their, I can't think what his name is, some fat geezer, I think he's died now. But he was involved with the Jesus Army. Now, you know, it's that thing, and go into the Jesus Army. So when he was always trying to get people, if you lost an homeless and everything, I can help you out and I can refer you to the Jesus Army, which they're just a bunch of ne'er-do-wells. As I say, their patron was an ex-criminal of was it Reggie and Ronnie Cray gang. So yeah, one of their sidekicks was the head person or whatever. What would you call it? The person that represents them. Anyway, that one, yeah, of the Jesus Army in London. Basically, they were ill-treating the people, exploiting the homeless, taking their money off them, and yeah, basically all of that, and every exploitation method you could think of. So there you go. But it's got Jesus in it. People think it's kosher.
Waterway network of the UK. They had information from within the prison service that there were two paedophiles that were living on boats.
Oh, not Rosie and Jim.
Had a lot of poignancy in as much as there was freedom to travel.
Right.
The canal network was very, very old and therefore didn't get policed.
Right.
And children like boats. And the BBC
Do
had
they?
a programme
I've
at the
not known
time which sort of... it was to do with two little dolls that lived on a canal boat called Rosie and Jim, and it was tied in at the same time as
I knew he'd get it in there somewhere. He always, if you know him as well as I do, he can't get through an interview without mentioning Rosie and Jim, because you know, once you've got the concept of Rosie and Jim in your head, then it's easy for you to keep that concept in your head, because Rosie and Jim lived on a canal boat on the canal, and they were rag dolls, and it was a children's cartoon. And once you've got that concept, then it's not too big a leap for you to grapple with the concept. Now, keep up, troops. Grapple with the concept. Manfully grapple with the concept that the canals are actually full of PDFs. I mean, how we get there, don't ask, you know? It's a bit like Jesus with the 5 loaves and fishes. Don't ask. Do you know what I mean? Just believe.
Kids were drawn to the waterways.
Well, they weren't, but do you know what I mean?
I'll get back to the main story, but the reason for telling this bit was that...
Shut up, you... I was going to say a rude word then, but I'll just say Mel. Rosie and Jim was aimed at sort of preschool, so it's like up to 4 years old. Now, I'm not sure what a 4-year-old kiddie will be running around, the canal, towpaths, all on their own, they're going to be victims. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even make sense. It does not make sense. Older children, you're not going to capture them by playing to Rosie and I've got Rosie and Jim on my canal boat. Do you want to come and have a look? Even older children would be like, piss off, you nonce. Do you get me? So none of his story makes sense. It's Rosie and Jim. There's no little under preschool age kids running around on their own on towpaths near canals that can be PDF'd off because they're all alone. Shut up. It's just nonsense. It's controlling the narrative, and all the time it's providing incomes for these melts. It's obfuscating the issue, and it's making sure that truisms, like if you see how much I've been dogpiled just by talking the truth, they do want to ruin you and rubbish you when you talk the truth. They will do anything to do that, and this is a government level one. So he's just, he's not employed by them anymore. He's just not got over the time he had in the sunlight. As I say, he's definitely not working for them now. He works as a janitor in some block of flats. So he just loved his. I've always said he just gloried in his hour in the sunlight, and he's never got over it.
That there were 2 sex offenders. I was asked to look into it.
Right.
As a field intelligence officer.
Oh my God.
I found another 2 within...
Where he's as a field intelligence officer. How did that go?
A set period of time, they'd be happy.
Right.
Within that period of time, I'd found 90.
Right.
I came into work.
Yeah.
And I was told by...
Look at that other guy there, because he's a bleeding melt as well. Look, I'm really concentrating on you, and you are really important to us because you're an ex-copper. Obfuscating the fact that this is about people that have been abused talking about their experiences, and it had basically nobody on this Mickey Mouse inquiry that was a survivor of child abuse that could put their input and their perspective. Nobody. It was all like Mickey Mouse official people that are put up. And look at this man on the right here, gamefully trying to, oh my God, actually, I'm sucking in every bit of your aura as you speak, because you are in fact an ex-cop. And as I say, there's no actual evidence he is. I mean, whether he was just a plod. He was one of them that started as a plod and retired as a plod. Never, do you get me?
A high-ranked officer that the inquiry had been shut down.
No, he reckons he was something he weren't. I've checked.
They couldn't afford the funding for me.
Right.
But I had been approached by a Scotland Yard detective who told me, he said,
right.
when you investigate any crime...
Here we go, this is an old one.
well at it, you get praised. When you look into child abuse cases, the opposite happens. Be very careful. He then told me about a cabinet minister that they investigated on a few occasions.
Yes.
And on each occasion they've been shut
Leon
down.
Britton.
So I was aware that this had gone on.
Could be Leon Britton, could be a number of them, couldn't it? Hey, what was that I can't think what his name is. Back in the day, I mean, they're all up to it. I've read The Very English Scandal. It was tediously disgusting, forget me. And the whole book was written in such a way that if you've got half a brain, you know that they're not telling you the truth in the book. They're only telling you enough to sell the book, and it's just bullshit. You can read between the lines in that English Scandal. It's disgusting. What was that one in the 70s? I can't think what his name is. Anyway, he was gay and he was married to a woman. She had a car crash, died. He was having male prostitutes, one thing and another. They covered it all up. Do you get me? And I don't think they were children, but it was the 70s. So, I mean, being gay could have bugged you up in them days. So a lot of people were gay, obviously. There's nothing wrong with that. But people would hide it, and that in and of itself would cause a lot of problems. But it isn't the fact that just they were hiding the fact they're gay. It was all the issues around that. So his lifestyle was then involving, say, gay male escorts. Do you get me? And the whole world of that. So you get drugs and you get crime and the whole lot. And he was leader of the Liberal Party. I think what his name is now, I've forgotten. I do know it. It's not David Steele, he came afterwards. Someone before that. Anyway, so yeah, and they've all got it. You've got loads of them. You've got that other one, Lord Tony Pandy. He was the Speaker of the House of Parliament back in the 70s. Biggest one going. You had the other one, what was his name? I can't think. Anyway, there's a list of them. Google it. There's a whole list of them. And they're all being fingered. Well, I know that's not a very good adage to use, but yeah, they were all having fingers pointed, let's say, at them. I mean, it was coming on top. It had been coming on top for years. Thatcher had covered it up and covered it up and covered it up. I mean, she's very good at cover-ups.
When I questioned
him, I don't like him. Pinstripe. He's a Robin.
The real reason,
he's a grifter.
He told me, John, I'm so sorry it's come from high up. There's nothing I can do, and promised me any job I wanted. So I moved on to the vice unit. I
can't stand it. I just can't. Just give him a whistle and he'll blow it all for himself. He just reminds me of somebody else. Me. It's the me show. Oh, me. Look at me. I'm just brilliant. Look at me. And it's all lies. And it is all lies. Every last bit of it. None of it makes sense. Doesn't stack up. It's not true. Basically, it's not true. And if I hadn't actually read his whole deposition to this Mickey Mouse thing, which is available online, by the way, if you put in this inquiry into human trafficking and child sex abuse, put it in your Google search, it'll come up with all the statements and all the depositions. And they are like War and Peace. I mean, they're massive. But if you really, like I was determined to prove my theory with him. And yeah, I mean, I knew. You can sniff them out. I knew anyway. But it's no good knowing. You have to be able to prove, don't you? And say, no, this guy is phony and fake AF. And all of them are. And nothing came, because you're going to say, well, what happened about this? Well, it was 5 years ago and absolutely nothing's happened. Children still continue to be abused. Survivors still continue to be ignored. They still haven't put the right amount of funding in to cover the differentiation between the effects of child abuse, long-term childhood abuse in all its form, and mental illness, which is slightly different to mental illnesses that occur organically. In other words, you're predisposed to. Because there are, I mean, The other thing is, well, childhood trauma causes fibromyalgia. I mean, did you know that, darlings? You know, there is a number of mind, body and soul things that can happen to an adult that has had such a degree of trauma in their childhood through adults around them abusing them mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, even financially, very often. It can throw up all sorts of trauma. And these sort of people, we never get to the bottom of it because there's inquiry going, there's a pot of cash. You're going to get ne'er-do-wells, you're going to get your grifters, you're going to get your self-aggrandisers like him, and nothing ever happens. And as I say, last thing he was associated with was Wilfred Wong, who's now serving 27 years in prison for child abduction using a knife. So there is his credibility down the pan. But he's manfully struggling on. And I heard Flop saying about something to do with death threats and this. I mean, I've been panning this man for years. And I've never had anything like that from him. He wouldn't dare bloody well start on me. Start on me? Bleeding melt. Don't know who he thinks he is. So, I don't know whether it might have been Jeanette Arch, because I've done her as well. But none of them come for me. How strange. Wonder why not. Anyway, darling, should we leave it there? I think we should. I think it might be that I am a founding member of the Survivors Network, darlings. So, as such, know what bloody hell I'm talking about. And I've got quite a lot of experience in that area. Educationally and actually. So, there we go. And he's full of crap. Don't believe him. And whatever you do, keep your purses in your pocket, your credit card details to yourself. If you come across him, don't give him no money. He's a grifter. And if he tells you to jump in a bleeding lake and body of water or a river, don't be doing it because it's very dangerous. Okay, bye-bye now.